to make it special for that client. And you know, pick up the phone, call Dick Haynes, he'll tell you he wouldn't be in a non-historic building or campus.
I would say, as to Ellis, that the historic assets are not just the buildings that you initially think of, but it's the trees, it's the story. The site became known as Arco, then it became known as SAC, and then we kind of revisited the history, the romantic history of the site. And people who came and heard the story, they like it. They want to be there. It's not West Lakes, it's not Chesterbrook, in this homogeneous suburban office development. There's something unique, there's something special, people want to be a part of it. People love history. And to the extent that you can offer that as something different from West Lakes or Chesterbrook or Pickett, it's an asset. Can I put a increase in rent to it? Can I put a pro forma to it or a net present value of it? No. But I know I get tenants there more quickly, they're more happy, and they stay longer when they're part of something.
Yes.
I'll stand over here so people can hear. Will, this is a question for you. The introduction of residential uses at the Navy Yard is the question. Some of the beautiful loft buildings that we saw in some of the last photographs there seem especially appropriate for that. What's the strategy looking forward? What are the conditions that you see that would make that work? And generally, what's the strategy for introducing residential uses, particularly in the historic core?
Before I answer, we don't have a half an hour for me to give you the appropriate answer. But in a nutshell, first and foremost, there are various provisions in this transfer agreement that live on, and we have to get the Navy to agree that we should be permitted to do residential development down in the Navy Yard. So that is the first thing that has to happen. Conceptually, there's no question that we agree that there's tremendous opportunity with, for example, the loft buildings. Originally, the residential development was really slated for the more of the East End and the Marina District, where you would have had to go forward with pretty large-scale residential developments. Picking up on Steve's comment, it's kind of good that we're doing some of these things now while the economy is what it is, and certainly that would apply to the residential development picture. But we do have aspirations to get very serious about the residential component as the next step.
Yes, in the back.
When we see these types of developments, we always think of the plan, and obviously plans don't always last that long. Can you talk a little bit about what are the key important elements of flexibility in terms of moving forward with your projects?
Well, in the case of Voorhees, we've been from primarily retail, non-glamorous retail, with the Walmart example I gave you, to the mixed-use residential, and then the office component wasn't even thought until we got out in the market and realized the demand. Flexibility, and the flexibility in Voorhees is actually a result of the fact that the community support, once we entertained the residential piece, the town center piece, if you will, the community supported our project, and that gave us the flexibility we needed. Politically as well, we were a rateable. We were an existing rateable, and when we acquired the center, we appealed that. I think the assessment was 60+ million. Now it's 16. That also gave us leverage. The township, the politicians needed the strength of that rateable. They needed a viable shopping center for the township to be successful. We're also the largest taxpayer, so we're a key component to the township.
If I could take a crack at that, I think that the really important thing is, one, to start with that plan. And I think the Navy Yard is just a great example of that. And one of the things that I think is to some degree maybe a little bit downplayed in terms of sort of how we go about our lives on a daily basis doing what we're doing, is that when you start with a plan like that, you basically have a place that you can then answer all these questions that come up in the community while you're getting projects approved that say this is cemented in the plan. So I think that there's really an art form involved here between creating a plan that has vision to it and has the general concepts that you're driving forward to, but also realizing that the market is really what dictates what you do. So you have to have enough flexibility, enough willingness to be flexible, but just making sure that you're not being so flexible that you're really compromising that plan. And I think that's the balance that you're asking about.
I would only add one quick thought to that is, all that said is correct, I agree. It needs to have flexibility. Planners, you need to figure out how things are going to be phased, but you also need to include strong architectural guidelines and design guidelines, or the developer left to his own devices will veer off course. He will. We're like that. And you wind up, instead of a town center, you wind up with a big box center with some fancy facade. And too many town centers in this region, we need a new term. They're not town centers. When you have Wegmans and Target and Sam's Club, it's not a town center anymore. So you need strong guidelines, and you need to hold the planners, you need to hold developers, you need to hold them accountable if you really want to see, if you want the vision to be executed.
Great. We have actually run out of time. I've had 3 people come in and motion to me. So I just have one important question for Will. If you get the tasty cake tour, do they give out samples at the end?
Why do you think I took it?